And we are live with Tamara Ray and Paul Bellus. Welcome, everyone.
We'll wait for some people to show up before we start talking.
Yeah, well, that does make sense. Absolutely. I know we normally have our Facebook Lives on Thursday scheduled for 4 o'clock. And due to Gina being at home today on quarantine, we have moved it to 7 p.m. where we have a special guest with us, Paul Bellus, to talk with us about the grid that his son Xander Bellus helped to craft.
There's nobody on yet.
I know.
It's just us. Oh, somebody's here. Hello.
So we do welcome you to use the chat window to join in the discussion and let us know that you're here. If you have any questions or comments to add to our discussion. So in addition to the grid that we're going to be talking about, we might also mention some of the ways of preparing our home for the holidays. So this is kind of a recap in case you missed last night during our Facebook Live sales event and giveaway.
And they're gone. It is a recap from last night. One of the things we mentioned is the holidays are sacred times, and as such, it's necessary for us to kind of complement the energies that the holidays bring in and make sacred our own space. And a lot of people don't devote kind of time every day to kind of making sure their home, their dinner tables, their kitchens, their bedrooms, right? That all the different aspects, environments that we operate in, even my office, right? I spend time every day to make sure that it is sacred. Just, you know, you have the politics of the university, you have the history of an old building, like the Jefferson building is where my office is. And so you just want to make sure that we recognize and respect kind of the sanctity of the places where we occupy, as well as the fact that, you know, we're going to invite energies in. We might invite people into our homes. If you do, I hope you're careful with that, especially during COVID. But even if we invite them into our homes via the internet, right, either Skype or Zoom or whatever social media you utilize to communicate with your loved ones across distance, we're still inviting their energies into our homes, into our place. And it would be nice to kind of make sure that as we set that space, just as we set space before we meditate or we set space before we pray, right, that it's nice for us to maybe just set the space and tone to ensure that the qualities that are going to contribute to the work that we're going to do in the moment, right, are ones that will complement that intentions that we have for that moment.
Yes. So we also talked about different ways of creating sacred space or setting our space to be sacred. One of the ways that we discussed last night, or just mentioning now, is through the use of smells. For example, cooking, holidays are a lot of times when you're getting a lot of those baked goods and those nice warm smells in. You can also use aromatherapies and just cooking some herbs or lighting candles in your space, using that as an opportunity to.
Scent is such a powerful tool, right? Mm-hmm. We smell all of the aromas, right, of a fresh cooked turkey or a baked pie or even the cooked cookies, right, as they get made, the dressing, right? And so how we kind of associate particular moments oftentimes come with scent. A lot of people say that when Mary shows herself or makes herself known to you, that you will smell roses, mm-hmm. right? And so so many memories, and those memories create so many thought patterns of joy, elation, of moving forward, right? So that having that type of memory and those energies, those memories brought to bear into your space. Sometimes, some of us will be in isolation, but yet if we recreate that memory for us, right, then we can invoke those energies, right, and fill our house full of our living space, right, full of that energy, the
Right.
hustle and bustle, right, the joy.
Correct. And as you talk about filling it, I forgot that one of the first things that we should do is clear it as well. Different ways of clearing space could include smudging, such as sage or Palo Santo, or you could have your own different herb blends. I know lavender and sage is a wonderful combination. You could also use sound as a way, whether you're using sound tools or tinctures and bells or just holiday music. That can be very clearing too, because as you bring joy into yourself, that is another area of clearing out.
Yeah, fill your house full of either sound or scent or even items, right? Decorations, right? Things that remind you of those moments, right? Bring in that energy in all sorts of different channels, right? And allow that to fill up.
And for those of us that are going to be, our holidays are going to look a little bit different. Maybe we don't get to spend time with people that we would normally spend the holidays with. An option that you can do is also set up pictures or create a sacred space with them. You could add crystals or other things to that area in that space. Just honoring their presence. Their physical presence might be absent, but you're still celebrating with them distantly. Maybe you might do virtual for those that are able to do that, or otherwise just a placeholder, just honoring their relationship and connection with the tradition for you.
So I think that's important. What do our centerpieces look like in a world in which, we're not having the guest over that we used to have, right? Do we set a place for them at the table? Do we put mementos on the table as part of the centerpiece? Things that help us, remind us to give thanks, right? Things to channel and bring in their presence, and so that when we dine, we're dining with them.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I wonder how many of us will be able to do like virtual meetings for those still sharing meals, but from our own homes, our own spaces, just so we can feel a little level of connection. I do want to say hi to Ruth Ann, and Gina and George are here, and Alice. Thank you guys for commenting and letting us know that you're here. So, and if you guys have any questions or comments or things that you're planning on doing, or anything you want us to cover tonight within this scope, please feel free to use the chat window so that we can follow along and answer your questions. So, thank you for joining us.
So, last night during the crystal show, we put a number of crystals up that help set sacred space. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones I want to kind of emphasize, because I think that it's important, is the idea of shungite. All right? And the reason why I say that is because it's a very powerful stone to neutralize the space. So anything that's coming in from outside, right? So if we're bringing work into our space, or if we're bringing some sort of anxiety because we, ran into some people at the store, right, that may have caused some consternation, right? Then having shungite placed either under the table or in the corners of the room, right, very important, because one of the things it does is not only neutralize an environment, but it also creates an energetic vortex of stability. And I thought that was kind of a very powerful phrase that may have been lost on people, is that it's literally creating a bubble, right? And to help maintain the stability of the environment we're going to occupy. Because as we go through, potentially some of us, right, as we go through our meals, and we see the different chairs or places that are empty, right? It might bring thought patterns up, right, that might lower our vibration, right? And we want to keep those high, right, during this time of joy. And so their absence isn't something to lament, right? Their absence is something to celebrate in this particular moment, because their absence is demonstrative of the love and care that they have for you.
Correct.
Right? And so I think that that's really something that's really important. Like, this is a year in which I'm not going to have a friend over. He's an elderly gentleman. He's by himself. And this is really the first year in, a dozen years that he's not going to come and have Thanksgiving with us. For a number of different reasons, but all of it comes from a place of love and protection and care. Now, what I will do is bring him a meal, right? And so he'll have that contactless delivery. I'll become a new Uber driver. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the meal that we would normally have, and I will make sure that he has packaged his meal, so we can celebrate. So he can have a taste of, that holiday with us.
That's so kind.
So.
And I do want to mention, Alice had talked about how her husband puts shungite in his water. Very powerful. It is definitely a detoxifier. And thank you for purchasing it from here. We absolutely love the support and encouragement. Another quality of shungite is that it is also an EMF protector. So if we are doing a lot of virtual stuff and bringing in all the chaotic energies of that EMF, the shungite will help with that as well to kind of dissipate the effects of all of that noisy energy.
So all we're asking to do is I know that you're going to rethink your traditions, but as you rethink them during this time, is to incorporate and celebrate that connection you have with others. Right? Even though they're not there, right? Their energy, their presence, their memory in so many different ways, right? They're already occupying that space, right? And they're never absent. We talk about that oftentimes when we talk about the loss of loved ones, right? When we talk about grieving, right? How will I know they're there, right? And a lot of us say, I see a butterfly, or cardinal comes to my window, or there's always, the sparrow, or I keep seeing numbers whenever I think of them, right? Or a particular song comes on the radio, or whatever it happens to be, right? Because their consciousness, right, that which is eternal, right, never vacates our space. And I want you to understand that all of us exist in kind of this duality of mortality and kind of an eternal life, right? One that is ever existing, because we embody both flesh and soul. And so that aspect of their eternal self is always with you. Right? And so never feel that loss, and instead take this moment, right, and understand how it is that they're always with you, right? And then create things that kind of honor, right, that awareness of the fact that they're always with you. And so if there's a song, play their song, right? If there's a particular item they want cooked, make a small batch of it, right? Just understand, right, that we're celebrating our sense of connectedness, right, via distance. That time and space, all are breaking down under COVID if you understand how to do the internal work. Right? And so it's advancing our consciousness. I mean, this is one of the things that's good about COVID, right, is that it's helping us to expand spiritually and grow spiritually so we can awaken to that interconnectedness, that sense of unity. That doesn't mean that we're not suffering, that it's not traumatic. I'm not trying to downplay, right, those aspects that are also realities, right, emotional realities. But spiritually, right, we can be doing this work. And this is a way for us to celebrate that during the holidays.
Right. And without you knowing any of that, we would be talking about that. So the grid and the work that we did last night has been already having a pretty profound impact on me. And this morning, last night and this morning, when I was gathering up the crystals so that I could prepare the grid, one of the things that I was doing is picking a few things that I felt connected to honoring the people that I won't be spending physical time with over the holidays. So even though we didn't know we would be talking about that, I already kind of had that in play and in motion of being like, oh, this reminds me of them, or this is a quality of energy, that playfulness that I will really be, physically missing, but I still found items and tokens and little things that would still bring that in. So I just love how all of the synchronicity, the synergy of all of this. And Alice was commenting on the ones that have already passed, and you just pretty much covered that as well. And then, hey, Bill, hi. I think she can see you on there saying hi to Gina and George. So next thing that we're going to talk, is there anything more about creating sacred space for?
No, I think people understand. They have a motivation.
Yes.
I hope I've inspired you. We hope we've inspired you, right, to engage in some devotional practice in this particular time. Because every day we are connected. Mm-hmm. And if we devote ourselves to an awareness of that connection, right, we'll awaken to it. And it will no longer have to be an effort. It will just be something that is. And that's kind of where we get to that question of you just need to be. And when we're talking about that, or when we talk about it spiritually, all that is just as we sit quietly, right, the mind fills. Because there's, right? And so that's all we're asking. Right? That's all I'm asking you to do is think about doing some work that sometimes we don't necessarily think about, but this is an opportunity for us to
practice.
Yeah, to practice.
Yes.
Perfect that work.
Yes, we're all working on being on that wavelength, on that same wavelength, that interconnectedness. Thank you, Alice, for that comment. So, shall we get into this grid?
Sure.
So one of the things after we set this up and we activated the grid, we've had Jennifer and Ruth Ann and Gina. Well, Gina wasn't here when we. So Jennifer and Ruth Ann had an opportunity to. And Sharon, okay, had an opportunity to feel the energy, and myself, and of course Paul, feel the energy of the grid. And one of the things that was really interesting, I think was that even before we named the grid? When we could feel it?
We had it named, but we haven't told anybody about some of the properties. And so this is kind of a reveal about how you will understand and sense the grid as shared by the experience of multiple others.
So it was quite interesting as I began to put to connect in with the grid, and I can feel it already. So there's something really interesting about this once you get it set up and you get it activated, you can feel wind, you can feel wind coming up from the bottom of the grid. And when I first put it on there, I kept thinking, well, there's got to be a vent or something, and I kept moving around, and
it was funny, she kept looking around like this.
There's got to be a vent. There's something happening because I'm feeling wind on the bottom of my hands when I'm putting my hand over the grid, and
nothing on the top.
Nothing on the top where the wind would actually be coming down. It's actually coming up from the grid, which is quite interesting because the name ended up coming together as the Winds of Change grid. So it's kind of quite interesting and coincidental. So
well, it's purposeful.
Purposeful,
right?
Yes.
I mean, the intention of the grid is for wind, the element of wind, to come into our lives and lift us up and move us to that next place. It's also wind that is here to clear our space right? Our body, our emotions, right? Our mind, our spiritual self, right? Our energy, right? Is to help clear that, right? Just as wind cleans, the street, right? We all watch the leaves just blow away out of our yards, right? Because they're just gone, right? It's like you walk up the next morning and it's not even in our neighbors. It's just gone. The wind has just taken it, right, and swept it away. And we think about, the winds of change, right? As seasons change, so do the winds. As different fronts come in, the direction of the wind changes, right? The political winds shift, right? And so we use it as a metaphor in all sorts of different ways, right? And we see it in nature, right, happen, right? And so this is literally a spiritual wind that's coming into us, right? That is really a blessing that the divine wants to provide us at this particular time for us to move with it, right? It will simply lift us up gently, right? And it's going to place us into another place. And as it does that, right, it's going to clear the path for us, right? And it's going to clear us. And so you'll see a lot of obstacles in your life start dissolving. You'll see a lot of thought patterns start dissolving. You see a lot of emotional patterns, right, begin being swept away. So those blockages that we've carried with ourselves that kind of prevented us to kind of move at this particular time, right, are gifted to us, right, in this particular manner. And it literally is almost like a divine breath. Think about it that way. As life is breathed into us, right? There's old legends, right, or the old adages, that we all get kissed by an angel, right, or we all take that first breath of life, right? Doctor slaps you, those types of things, right? This is literally a breath of life from the divine that is being brought to us. Sometimes we talk about the divine word, we talk about logos as the divine thought and wisdom, right? This is literally a divine breath that is being brought to us to increase our vitality, to move us spiritually, right? And that's the reason why you're feeling the wind. It's not, it's, I don't want to call it magic, right? Because I think that it's literally because you remember, I've talked about this before, the crystals already operate at a higher state of consciousness than us, right? They serve unconditionally, right, our whim, right? And they are perfect vessels to channel, right, the divine energies, right? Because they are without ego. Think about it. They sit for millions of years waiting to be discovered so they can become tools for us to help us advance, right? And so here these tools are, right? And here the divine is, and they're co-creating for us, right, a moment. And this moment, right, will help us move forward so that when the spring arrives, right, the seeds that we plant for next year, right, and the harvest that we'll receive next year will be so bountiful.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's not a coincidence that you actually feel the wind, because I do believe it is the breath of God.
So Alice had mentioned, and totally makes sense, that she feels the energy coming from the east, and we happen to be east of her, and it's very refreshing, clearing energy. And I'd also comment that getting this grid set up and utilizing it for the remainder of this year and into next year.
Yeah, this isn't something you take down until spring.
Right.
You keep this grid active and moving.
Yes, and the sooner the better, because as I would mention, just bringing in a little bit of our celestial qualities going on, we're entering into eclipse season. So this past new moon was the kind of the last one. We'll have the next several full moons and new moons will be eclipses, and eclipses are also times in which we have an opportunity to ask to have us be moved to where we need to be for our highest and best. And so the energy of this grid, as well as being cosmically supported, to move through what we need to move through with as much grace and ease as possible. So, yes. So shall we get into the grid now?
All right. Well, so before we talk about the crystals, let me say something about them. So Xander comes to me and he says, Dad, I want you to offer something up for the sales event. And I kind of like look at it and say, oh, okay. I mean, I'm thinking like, you know, he wants me to put something up that he wants me to buy for him, right? For the holiday or whatever it happens to be. Absolutely not. What he wanted was for me to offer up to all of you this set of crystals and this grid pattern information because he was told, I don't need to sugarcoat it anymore, right? He was told by Christ that this is the energy that the divine wanted to have brought to us at this particular time. And so this is literally a gift that's heavenly, a gift that's divine, right? And when I went through all the different crystals, I had a long list of all the different crystals for all the different, that are connected to all the different northeast, southwest, right? The compass points, right? Or the different elements. Xander would just simply say, that one, or this one, or that one, right? And then as I decided I would start researching some of the qualities of them, right? Now you have to remember something about Xander. He doesn't read any of this stuff. He just simply clears the shop, connects with the crystals in a super conscious way, right? And, he communes with them. And so he was just simply telling us what the divine said was the qualities of crystals that they wanted to bring. And that's the reason why you have them specified. Because normally Xander believes that you can ask the crystal to do anything you want it to do, and it will produce that quality, because if they are of elevated super consciousness, right, if they are divine, right, in unity with the divine, then they are without limitations. So they don't see themselves with limitations, right? They don't know themselves to be powerless or to be limited in their power. And so for him to specify something tells me that there are certain crystals that occupy this store then that want to serve this particular function. And so maybe you have crystals at home that will serve you, right, for a particular function, but these are the ones he knows that the store that wanted to serve these particular functions. So we start the grid with a sacred geometry. And go ahead.
Real quick, Alice, we will, if he doesn't get to that answer, or to answer your question, I'll remind him in a little bit. And she said she got goosebumps again from the story, Paul, just like last night. And she said that she could also feel the energy of the grid from the sale last night. So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, does she have a question?
She wanted to know how to keep the grid active and moving, but I think you're going to probably cover that in your talk.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
okay. And Ruth Ann, oh, hey Paige. Ruth Ann, well, Alice said Xander is an amazing soul. Xander, thank you for sharing this energy with us. And Paige says hi.
I think Ruth Ann experienced Xander's energy in a meditation.
Oh yeah.
So I think she liked it.
That's wonderful.
She could feel the healing from the meditation online.
Oh wow.
So she mentioned to Cindy, like, I could feel just the healing from that meditation. And Cindy looked at her and said, well, that's the energy Xander channels. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, so anyway, there are two, there are actually 4 sacred shapes that exist in the grid. The first is the outside, which is a square, but it's also a cube because it's not necessarily spatially restricted to kind of our linear kind of like 2D format. Stones don't operate in that way. And so what you have is actually a cube that is created around the grid. And that is a very powerful sacred geometry. It's connected to the root chakra. It's also considered to be a foundational formation, right? It holds the most energy of any of the shapes. It is solid in a way that a lot of people think of it as a space of protection, right? And so these outside elements that we're going to be connecting with, the north, south, east, and west, right, the points of the compass, are literally forming, like almost like a Faraday cage, right, of energy, right, that is making sacred the space then that the grid operates under. All right, so then we have the Star of David, or the six-pointed star. In Greek, that's a sign of victory. It became in early Judaism, right? The shields of the warriors were painted with that, not so much as a representation of David, but a representation of the fact that this is divinely ordained to be victorious, that the outcome, right, is already determined, right, to be been in the best interest, right, of that person. And so that is the symbol that Xander said has to specifically be kind of the way in which you set up the 6 stones that are related to the elements. Now, I know a lot of people think that there are only 5 elements, but Xander says that a lot of people first, he's been told that they're called different things than the way in which we speak to them. We talked a little bit about that last time, that earth is too limiting of a concept and air is too limiting of a concept, that not all aspects of the cosmos are represented here on this earth, not all matter, right, that exist in space exist on earth. We already know that because we have asteroids that will land. It's like that's a cosmic phenomenon, right? Metal or mineral that is, not indigenous to Earth, right? But Xander says that, like, we need to move outside of the fact that we can only work with the matter of Earth, that we actually embody the ability to work with all matter, because if we exist in a state of unity with the divine, then we have access to all aspects of creation that we can call upon, right, to bring into our physical plane, right, and in our reality. Similar thing with air. Xander says not all environments have air, but all environments will have wind. And that's just something that he says always exists within creation, right, the idea of movement. And so he says that we should not restrict it to just the question of air. Anyway, then the other two, you have the triangle pointing up, right?
That would be earth or matter, wind or air, and water. Mm-hmm. And that's the one going up.
Right. And Xander says that in this instance, that a lot of people associate that with kind of like masculine energy, but it's not. It's more of oh God, let me use the exact words. I have to recall it. Hold on. Because I asked him about this. I said, well, the two triangles, the inverted one is feminine, right? The right side up triangle is masculine, right? Are we talking about balance between the yin and the yang, right? The positive and the negative, the light and the dark, right? And Xander says, Yeah, sure, all those things could potentially be true, right? And you can think about them that way. But he says the reason why they're connected this way is the way in which they work with one another. That matter, water, and wind are complementary to each other. And that when they exist together, they create kind of, oh God, what does he say? He almost says like a spiritual ooze. I don't know what that means, right? But it's like clay that can then be molded by the wind. And so remember, the wind to Xander is divinely inspired, right? And so when matter mixes with water, right, you're creating something then that can be molded, right, by a divine hand, by divine inspiration, for divine purpose, right? And you also have triangles symbolize qualities that will be brought down to manifest in particular changes, which makes then total sense, right? And the other one, the inverted triangle, is fire, lightning, and chaos. And Xander says that those are all the catalysts that exist for change. That once the clay is molded, it can either be struck by lightning, right? And life is brought in that way. It's much like we see sand get struck by lightning, right? And it forms glass, right? And so the heat, the superheat from the lightning, right, will change. But it's even more than that. Like lightning has its own unique energy, the idea of light, right, being brought in as opposed to fire, right, which will then potentially, harden, change, the type of thing, the clay. Now, chaos is the energy that a lot of people miss when it comes to elements. A lot of people don't think about it, right? But chaos is that which exists primordially before anything else happens, right? Which is why when I was researching the stones Xander picked, I almost fell out of my chair, and I immediately brought it to Tamara's attention when it came to garnet, because Xander chose garnet as the representation of chaos, because garnet is symbolic of chaos taking all aspects of the elements and manifesting them in this world. And when we read the description, right, it includes lightning, fire, matter, the fact that it was shaped through water, right, because it drips, right, and that gets created, right, it seeds it, right, and then wind, right, just that divine kind of shaping and purpose of it, right, and so to me that was just totally fascinating that garnet encapsulates the other 5 elements into a single thing, right, that springs from, right, the chaos of everything before it gets put together in a divine purpose. And so Xander says that, there are only 4 persons in the history of humanity that have mastered chaos. And so he says that he found that to be interesting. And as controversial as this might be, I mean, he said Christ was not one of them. Right? And the reason why he says that's true is because Christ had to start his work sooner than he wanted to. Just because the way in which the world was evolving at that particular time. That Christ had wished that there was more time. Kind of, you hear some of that in Scripture when you talk about the garden where Christ asked for it to pass over him. It's not that he doesn't want to engage in the work that needs to get done. There's just more work that needs to get done. There's more spiritual work that Christ needed to perform to be complete.
All right. So, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm long-winded.
All right. So, do I need to keep you on track here? So, it's 7:40, and we want to go ahead and get into quickly then the crystals. Of course, you guys are all welcome to rewatch the Facebook Live sales.
And you can fast forward that last part. So you can fast forward my diatribe.
No, I meant from last night.
Oh.
If there was anything, last night we went through all of the descriptions, why we chose the ones that we chose. So I just don't know if we'll have how much time we'll have to get to reading all of that.
So this is how Xander says you should set up the grid, right? So he says you can start by placing your center stone, right? And then you can start with matter, then water, and then wind, and then go to fire, lightning, and chaos. And then you can create the outside. He said also, if you want to set the intention that the outside, right, creates the environment that will allow the inner portion of the grid to operate, then you start with north, then you go east, south, and west. So you're going clockwise, right, around.
And that's an aspect of opening grids. When you work with opening and closing grids, often going clockwise is going to be your opening, and counterclockwise would be your closing.
So when I was setting it up at home, Xander was instructing me to start on the outside and go around, and then he had me go into the inside.
So again, so then that would be
start with the centerpiece
center
with
here,
wind.
And then you move to the upright triangle. So matter, wind, water,
Mm-hmm.
and then the inverted, and you start with fire, lightning, and then chaos. So just reiterating that movement.
So the thing that's important is that once the grid is set up, it's literally nothing more than a blessing, a gift, right? And so when we receive divine gifts, we don't really kind of get in negotiations with the divine and say, hey, I really want you to give me this instead, right? Or I want you to, provide me, with this other thing, all right? As if we know, all right? Better. It's simply just asking, right? And making yourself open. I'm open to receive whatever the divine breath wants to bring me in my life. And so when I set the grid up for the shop, right, last night when I was activating it, the intention was that all of the people, all the women I know that work in this shop, right, that they all receive whatever the blessing is that this breath was to bring to them. Not deciding, hey, they want this or they need that, or, remove ego, remove desire, and simply just be thankful at this time of grace, right, of gratitude and thanks and appreciation, right, that the abundance, right, of this divine blessing falls upon them, and that they are aware of that divine blessing as it makes itself known.
Well, thank you. I already feel it. I can attest it's working. So I didn't even know that part about your intention for activating it. So yeah, I'm gonna say that it's working. So let's go ahead and just, instead of getting into the descriptions of this, if you are interested, maybe we could post this on the.
You can post it on Facebook. Nobody cares.
Yeah, so we can post this on Facebook if you want to go ahead and print it out. You can also request, I can send you an email copy of it as well. Just kind of getting into, and that'll explain all the extra descriptions of why we chose these stones. And if you need to substitute something, you are definitely welcome to do that. As you feel intuitively called. You can also call or message us and ask, and we can give you some recommendations for other ones that might have the same qualities or similar qualities, or we can help you get the crystals that you need that you might be missing.
They cost $16.
Yes.
I mean, it's affordable.
So I'm going to just go get it real quick. The winds of change grid kit that we created is $16, and it's a tumblestone rough or tumblestone example or specimen of each one of them.
So Jennifer Ferrara comes in and she sees the grid, right? And she goes like, whoa. And she put her hand over it and she could feel the wind, right? And she goes, I feel this breeze. It's like, and she goes, I think it opens from here. And she's like, felt the north and all that, right? I thought it was very cool that she was kind of very attuned to it, right? She goes, I wouldn't think something with as few stones would be as powerful as that is.
As few and small.
Yeah,
stones.
few and small. It's like you don't need to have big crystals because the divine exists in perfection, in complete totality, in everything, which means in the smallest molecule, in the quark, right? There is all divine, right? It's not like the divine separates, right? It's like because this crystal is so small, I can only put a little teeny dash of myself in there, right? No, right? It's complete wholeness, exist in a state of unity, right? In completion. And so it doesn't matter the size, right? This grid is perfect the way it is. That's the reason why we chose small stones. Xander didn't want any real large specimens.
And plus,
the only thing he said that should exist, if you wanted to think of it this way, is that the windstone should necessarily be separate. That which is in the center should be different than that which is on the outside, right, in the triangle, right? And if you could, that which is in the center should be the largest stone that you have in your grid.
Very simple. And to mention that in this Winds of Change kit, the only stone that is that you would still need to add would be your middle stone. So this includes all of the outside, the 4 on the outside and the 6 on the inside. You would just need to have the one center stone that you come up with on your own to purchase separate. So.
And there's a long list of stones that are
possible.
Yeah.
Yep. And also, just to mention that 16 happens to be a number for rebirthing. So talk about
that was synchronicity. It's like, I can't believe I just came out to $16. You know, with the discount for all the stones, you know, putting them together, etc. Still $16 is like, that's rebirth.
Yep, like, there we go. That is.
Can't make this stuff up.
Talking about the rebirthing, the reemerging of this highest vibration expression of ourselves. So. Getting into the actual, because I also want to talk to them just briefly, or have you talk to them briefly about how to get it activated, or how to get it activated and to answer Alice's questions. So as again I said, all of the information will be on here. So I'm going to just tell you what these stones are. So this is going to be your north. You need to find the north at your from wherever you're setting the grid up. So this would be the northmost point of the grid. Okay, and then this one is a fancy jasper. We have a fancy jasper marble represented. The next one for east, for wind, is going to be a yellow jasper. We chose mookaite jasper. It's available in in many colors, if you know mookaite. So we chose the yellow mookaite for that. In the south, so this will be your southmost direction. And that's going to be a red jasper. You could also use any type of red jasper that you might have. Then in the west, for water, we have Dalmatian jasper. So that's your 4 outside points.
And which was odd. Again, remember I told you, Xander doesn't really specify stones, nor does he ever look at them, right? Like what are their qualities, etc. So as we're doing this work, right, jasper is actually the ideal stone to utilize when working with the compass points, because they're attuned to the electromagnetic field and vibrate in such a way that they best channel the energies of north, south, east, and west.
This is awesome.
We just so whatever wisdom he's receiving from whoever, right, seems to fit how we understand things. So that was crazy to me. We talk about synchronicities. That's just one that just like, come on.
It just keeps happening more and more and more. So then the next grouping that we have, so the middle section is going to be wind. It's going to be your larger stone. And she just reiterated her question again. And so wind, we chose azurite, the stone of the heaven. It actually is also a channeling stone for bringing in those high vibration energies. So that's what we have in this centerpiece here. Again, you can contact us. We can give you some alternatives if you need. The next one, so starting with it, we have up here at the top for matter is going to be pyrite. And then we go to blue lace agate for wind, the second, or the first wind here. Well, second, first, okay. Anyway, so we have wind over here for blue lace agate. And then we have water represented by a river agate. And that would complete that upward triangle. The inward triangle then has the bloodstone in the southmost direction representing fire. And then we come up here to lightning, which is a piece of copper. And then we come over to chaos, which is, as we mentioned before, was garnet. I believe you already mentioned that. So pyrite, blue lace agate, river agate, bloodstone, copper, and garnet are going to make up your 6 points on the inside, and then again azurite in the middle. So now that we have, say they've got all of their pieces set up, maybe a substitution here and there, as called for it, what would you then recommend for activating and...
So as you're placing them, the intention is just simply that you're putting into each of the stones as you handle them, put them in their spot, right? Is nothing more than to receive whatever gift, right, the wind, the divine breath is bringing you, right? Whatever life it's bringing you, right? Whatever it is, right, that it's giving you, right? And then the way in which you activate it is you just simply say, I am open to receive, right? And then tell them what you're open to receive, right? And as I say, B is sacrifice your ego, right? Box it up, put it away, and just simply say, I am open to receive whatever blessing, right, that this gift, right, wishes to bring me. And that's all I want. That's all I asked of it. Right? And that's all Xander says you should ask of it. Xander was very clear. It's like, it's just a gift.
I'm open to receiving the gifts from the divine. This grid is bringing forward to me.
And and think about it as almost like opening up a package. Right? It's just simply, you know how you just would like peel across out the paper from it, right? And you're just opening it out.
That's how you open packages?
You take the right? You just take the paper off, and there you go. So, however it is you open yourself up, however you want to embrace this energy or connect to it, is how you would then activate it. You said, I am open to receive, right? And then you bring it in. Or you give it to someone else. Right. Now, how do you maintain it? How do you keep it? Because it's going to be up for a couple of months, right? This is something that Xander says is fascinating about this grid, right? I teach a class on crystal gridding. When we talk about cleansing our grid, we can talk about smudging, we talk about giving it Reiki, we talk about putting selenite towers or obelisk of onyx or shungite, right, etc. around, right? It doesn't need it. And I asked him, I said, what do you mean it doesn't need it? He says, do you think God is imperfect? Do you think God needs to take a bath? There's no misqualified energy. that's going to exist in this space, because that's what the square is about. The square protects and maintains the sanctity of this space.
That's wonderful.
And so as long as the square remains intact, you're not like moving the crystals in and out, right? Then the energy will only be divine in this space. There won't be any misqualified energy. That's the reason why when people put their hand over it, you can still feel the breeze. And
It is so cool.
And you can feel heat now and then because it cycles. The different qualities of the elements are cycling through because all 6 elements are being brought to us.
Okay, so Alice says, I totally get it. Setting intentions and asking for what is needed. It's just like your guardian angels are always with you, but you have to ask them for help.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you don't have to worry about maintaining this grid. That's what the square does.
Okay. And so keeping this up until we are in a space of springtime, and then we could go ahead and mention deactivating it or taking it down, giving thanks for all of the work and the transformations and the shifts and the things that have come from this. Again, I guess maybe if you were done, pretty sure by spring we'd be ready for our next growth. And at that point, that's when you can go ahead and take them down, take it apart, and then the crystals can be used for other stuff, other grids, or to be gifted out or whatever.
But these crystals don't have to be spaced out as spaced as they are here, right? You could literally have them almost touching each other. So you could really collapse your grid into a very small space. So if you want to put it next to your nightstand, a bed, right? And so when you're sleeping at night, that it's just infiltrating, right, that aspect of your unconsciousness, right? Then do that, right? If you want to make it a centerpiece on, a table in the living room, then do that. If you have a altar that you utilize, then put it there. I'm just saying, it doesn't need to take up this much space. It can also be smaller.
Yeah.
All these crystals could be moved together as long as we maintain the integrity of the outside cube, right? And we maintain the fact that we have representations of the 6 points.
Right. And we utilized what was available to us. And honestly, after I seen your email of stuff that we were going to be doing, I kind of thought we might need a really big space for this. And then when it came to be, it is very power-packed little pieces. So, oh, sorry, I forgot to, okay. So, they're talking amongst each other there. So, thank you for sharing. Super helpful and informative, wonderful. So, I guess if they have any...
I can just encourage you to accept the gift from the divine as it was brought here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not every day that we have it as literally handed to us.
Clearly defined and handed, yep.
And said, this is for you. It's like when Christ took the cup, or he took the bread and said, this is for you. Or when Moses received the 10 Commandments, this is for you, right? Or when Muhammad, right, went to the mountain, this is for you, right? Or when Sananda, right, walked, right, and God said, this is for you, right? Or when Buddha sat under the tree, right, and reached enlightenment, and it was simply, this is for you.
Wow. And as you say it over and over again, I'm reminded that sometimes people forget that. They are challenged with that feeling of being worthy to receive. And when we can set that ego, we can set all that aside and just allow ourselves to be in this presence and to receive that which we need. I also have another question. If it would make people feel a little bit more comfortable, if once they have it set up, do you feel that Xander would be, if they were to call on Xander to give thanks for him bringing this forward if he would help activate it and maintain
Yeah,
the
he
grids.
can do that from home, no problem.
Right. Wonderful. So you don't have to actually contact him or like reach out to him. However, if you want him to just bless the grid after you get it set up, he would be okay with that.
Like his Facebook page, it's Xander Bellus, or XP Divine Connection on Facebook. So Xander Bellus, Bellus, and it's Xander with an X, Xander. Right? You can like his Facebook page and simply just, private message him from
Send
it
him a
and
thank
say,
you.
Xander, I'm setting up my grid. Do you want to come take a look? And spiritually, he'll take a look. He'll do that work for you.
Hello, Patricia. So happy that you made it. Hopefully we get a chance to see you and your daughter soon. So we look forward to that. And I believe Patricia purchased the Winds of Change grid last night, if I remember all of the orders that I processed this morning and last night. So if you didn't get a chance to catch the beginning of it, I have a little bit more information about how it got set up. So
We should let them go. It's been
Yeah.
an hour.
all right, so we just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and we appreciate the dialogue and the conversations and your relating to your personal experience. So thank you so much, and we look forward to chatting and talking to you again soon.
And remember, if you want any of this information, just email Tamara and she can send it to you.
Yeah, and we will try to get it posted. If I can find a way to post it on our event page or on our Prismscapes Facebook page, we will. Otherwise, if you want this information, go ahead and just, send me an email. We'll get it out to you.
Thanks
So,
all.
thank you. Bye. You're welcome, Alice.